All right, here we are on another episode of Salient Points. This one's the one for 4th of July. Bow, 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 bow. Right, Dalan? Is that how they sound out there in space? 4th of July edition. We'll see if anybody tunes in. I mean, it goes up pretty early. You guys should be celebrating at night anyways, right? But I'm Carlos, the master of what, Dalan?
International Pringles.
Okay, Carlos, the master of international Pringles Macias, and we got Dalan Kirkwood from up in the mountains as well. Thank you, sir. Now, we're being sponsored by what, Dalan? What is this? What do you got in the background over there?
Oh, these
not what you're licking on in the foreground. What do you have in the background?
What I'm looking at in the foreground is nothing but cake. So this is confetti. Little miniature confetti cake
establishment, and also phrasing, but that's fine. What's going on with the Pringles?
The Pringles is. Okay. I know I said it off wax at the time, but I had a family member come all the way from Scotland, and she brought some Pringles that could only be sold outside of the U.S. Okay. She brought like 5 cans, but we only have 2.
I'm pretty sure they could sell them here, Dylan. They're just choosing not to sell them here. I don't think they're bad. Man. What are the flavors? Can you zoom into them? Can you bring them to the forefront?
Bring them to light.
Yeah.
First what's going on here? The sizzling, spicy chorizo.
Okay, okay, interesting. The spelling's all off, but that's cool.
I don't know if it's off. I don't spell chorizo too often.
No, not even that. No, I'm saying like the sizzling or whatever. Multigrain, what is this? Bread flavor?
No, it's roasted chicken. What is it? Roasted chicken and rosemary.
Okay, making a
but
sandwich.
It's multigrain. Okay. It has less salt.
All right, whatever that means. Scots. Okay, Scots lens. All right, Dalan Kirkwood from up in the mountains. Thank you for joining us, sir. Luis Mendez on the wheels of steel, of course. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Technical difficulties, hopefully out of the way.
But PC master race, huh? Hey, you're looking very sharp though. I guess you're using kind of an NVIDIA. You said plug-in or something like that for the blurring.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Company man, is that a company man hat you're wearing or no? It's a different.
Nah, this is Clippers.
Okay, Clippers. All right, we'll see. Oh, they got Westbrook. Huh?
You should know that.
We got Westbrook on the cheap, man. So I don't know. They got to figure something out. These players need to stop getting injured, though. That's really what it is. Hey, but let's get into the podcast. I should have checked for comments. So sorry if anybody commented out there. I did not check for comments, but like always, like, subscribe, comment. Most likely you're gonna get on here. If you guys have heard us before, the comments that get through are a little questionable, but they'll still get through. They'll still get through. And we will respond. We'll put you guys on the podcast. So if you comment over there on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, we'll bring you on here. But let's get right into the headline. Of course, the big thing this past week is that we're getting some The Last of Us Part 3 leaks. I got a couple comments here. There's one from Dom the Bomb YouTube. He's a streamer out there. He says, as far as The Last of Us Part 3, the plot will reportedly feature a group of scavengers surviving on the outskirts of a post-apocalyptic city, crammed into a Victorian house that serves as their base. Naughty Dog is casting roles for diverse groups of new characters, and of course our favorite kind of commentaryist out there, YouTube guy, Legacy Killer HD said, encouraging The Last of Us Part 3, or Factions, moving past Ellie and Abby as main protagonists is for the best. I'm sure they'll be featured, but following new survivors has me optimistic. Genuinely curious with what the third game will cover. Another chance of a cure or question mark. I know we did talk about it in Salient Points, or I think it might have been a reasonably hyped, that we talked about how Bungie is a kingmaker over there, and I think we even talked about how maybe it's a good thing that Bungie told Naughty Dogs, like, you know what, this looks a little trashy to me, and they might have pulled back on Factions, and maybe this is what we're getting. Maybe these are the new threads of like, okay, this is the story now. This is what's going down. Maybe Faction / Part 3, which I'm more for, but I feel like this means it won't be out for years and years, man. We got years and years till we see this thing, but I'm down. I'd rather this than a Factions that obviously Bungie was like, this is we don't like this. But Luis, what do you make of this, man? You feel like these are kind of in line, or you kind of believe these things coming out, these leaks, or how are you feeling, or what do you want to see?
I mean, it felt more like a Factions thing to me. Though that is a good point you bring up. I completely forgot about the Bungie team going in there and like Sony's plan is like them kind of giving developers feedback on the live service games. So that's the reason I think, it is the live service thing, not part 3.
Okay.
But yeah, because I mean, this all has the same sort of aspects of what they did with the original online version, which was basically just the little dots on the screen moving around, like, hey,
Mm,
you have people getting sick, you have people surviving, dying.
mm,
Um, so yeah, the fact that they're talking about a base on the outskirts near a outpost and this and that, it sounds like factions to me. But
yeah,
the fact that it's saying they're casting currently,
yeah,
that yeah, that probably got delayed for sure without,
yeah.
and they didn't even announce it because there's no date in sight. So.
Do you? I know. As far as reasonably hyped, I usually try to do just one or two persons on there. I don't think you. I think it might have just been me and Dale. But as far, what would you like to see, Luis? Do you care to see a factions, or do you want them to just give us part 3 with some factions sprinkled in or something like that? Or
No,
what would you
factions,
want?
they've already said that it's going to be a standalone and they are working on it. So it's not
Okay.
like it got delayed, but when they were releasing
Okay.
part 2. And
Okay.
obviously by a considerable amount of time, because that was like what, 3
Yeah.
years ago that game came out now.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is they're definitely doing a factions. I don't think they're
Okay.
shifting gears to a
Okay.
part 3. And I think they even mentioned themselves that they're going to take a break
Yeah.
from The Last of
And,
Us
and
in
they did
general.
a statement. I don't know, of course, when this happened a few weeks ago, right? It was like Naughty Dog put out a statement like, "Hey, hold on, look, we're working on factions, but we're working on a new thing." So I don't know, man. To me, I'd like to see them be like, whatever, factions didn't work out. Plus, Bungie, the kingmaker over here, doesn't like us right now, or whatever. And I'd like them to just go full force on part 3, but. We'll see. We'll see. I don't think we've had much else. These are some kind of leaks coming out. But Dalan, how do you feel, man? How do you feel about this?
Personally, for Last of Us Part One, I couldn't actually get into the multiplayer as it was. So I mean, I played the multiplayer and it was very smooth and very nice. It was definitely better to me than the Uncharted multiplayer. But if they're gonna make another game at this point, I would much prefer it be Last of Us Part Three. But at the same time, I'm like, where do they go from here? Our fan favorites are their stories are practically wrapped up. So they would want to jump ship from their original characters to try and do something else, or go deeper into Ellie murdering people.
Okay, Dalan, spoilers, but that's fine. But also,
We all know that Ellie murdered
it wasn't
people.
necessarily fully wrapped up, though, right? In part 2, there was a conclusion, and I liked it. Even if I
Yeah,
leave it at
There
that.
was a conclusion.
There was
I
a
definitely wasn't
conclusion,
happily ever-
but it's still open, right? In a way, right? It's still a little bit open. They can
It's
explore it a
very
bit more.
open.
Yeah. So
Yeah, there's definitely room to grow. But then I'm like, well, they got the Last of Us series coming out, so I'm fine with just watching that.
okay, Dalan's ready to move on. That's his commentary. But yeah, no, I feel like yeah, if they move on and that was a part of the story in the world, and they move on to other characters, and that's part 3, I'm okay with that. But I'm sure they can't necessarily leave all these characters behind, right? I'm sure there's gonna be some kind of sightings or something. Luis, you got anything else to say before we kind of get into the quick takes this week?
No.
All right, we'll get into it, into the quick takes and Microsoft CEO. So they finally wrapped up the FTC versus Microsoft, kind of like the testimonies that they were gonna do. I a lot of the stuff last week, man, you can kind of dedicate a whole podcast to it. So to me, I'm like, let me just pick out one or two little things here, but there's a lot of stuff that came out of it. But one of the cool things, I guess, or one of the interesting things that came out of it was that the Microsoft CEO, Satya Nadella, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, he said at trial that, quote, "If it was up to me, I would love to get rid of the entire exclusives on consoles, but that's not for me to define, especially as a low share player in the console market. The dominant player there, Sony, has defined market competition using exclusives, so that's the world we live in. I have no love for that world," which is kind of funny because console exclusives and these console wars have been going back to like Sega Genesis and Nintendo Super Nintendo. So it's been going on for a while. It wasn't Sony's complete doing, but it's just kind of funny to hear the Microsoft CEO saying like, I don't like exclusives. I don't like what they're doing over there. But what do you make of this wackiness, Luis, that we've been kind of getting out of this trial?
Well, I do like the sort of headline there you put on it. I don't believe you read it, and if you did, I missed it. But Sony, it's Sony's fault we have console exclusives, which
Yeah.
no, that's definitely a Microsoft thing, because when they came in with the 360, they're like, buy everything, exclusive this, exclusive that. We get 1 year to Call of Duty maps. We
Yeah.
get this cut. We get this franchise. We get that franchise. So the only thing Sony could do to come back from the dumps from the PS3 was on the PS4 just buy everything, right? They started just buying shit, and they're continuing to do that with all the money they're making because of that on the PS5. So I think now that they're starting to lose, he's like, damn, we hate exclusives now. I don't like this world at all. But it's like, it's your own doing. You did it to yourselves.
Yeah, they've been doing it to each other, man. It's a business is gonna business, right? It's really like, of course, you're gonna try to give yourself advantages as much as you can. And I don't think you fault them for it. You can think they're corporate, evildoers or whatever, but it's business. They're all trying to kind of gain an advantage out here, right? But it's just kind of funny that they're like, this is Sony's fault. And I like the dominant player there, because they keep building themselves down, breaking themselves down. They're like, we're a third place team and we can't do nothing, or we can't do nothing unless we get exclusives and buy Activision Blizzard for $70 billion or whatever it is. Dalan, what do you make of this wackiness here?
Personally, I didn't feel like Sony was the reason for that, but Sony kind of saw the way that the video game market was in itself and said, okay, how can we draw more money out of this? Because as we've said before, we know Sony is greedy. Sony is very greedy.
Every company, Dylan. Every company. The sole purpose is profit. That's
the sole purpose is profit. Company, So when they saw this, they were like, all right, exclusives is the way to go. You get a really good game on your system, and you don't let anybody else have it for a period of time. We're going to make all that money. It's not going nowhere else. And so I think that even though it kind of started steering the market itself towards systems having exclusives, it was still a very smart move. And honestly, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't have exclusives, but there's also the idea that there are certain games, Call of Duty, freaking Fortnite, you shouldn't necessarily have it be exclusive because you want everybody to
and they have different game plans too, right? PlayStation, it's their own studio, so they built these up, man. It's like, why would it be multi-platform when we created Naughty Dog, the Last of Us and Spider-Man and all these exclusives? It's kind of like,
how about this? Throw Gears of War everywhere, and then we'll talk.
So Microsoft has a few, big games, Halo and that kind of thing, which have waned over time, right? But their strategy is really, we're trying to buy exclusives, right? So it's a different game plan, and PlayStation's still strong, man. Quality-wise, is strong. Even after this Activision Blizzard thing goes through, Microsoft has more of a volume exclusives, right? But Sony still has some good shit. We were just talking about The Last of Us. That's our headline for the week, not Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. It's The Last of Us. It's an exclusive from PlayStation. So they have different game plans there. The next thing we have on here is that Jim Ryan, our favorite person at Sony over there, that went to Brussels. He got into his private jet and said, I need to go stop this right now. He says that publishers, quote, unanimously do not like Game Pass because it's value destructive, end quote. And there's one company that actually says they were okay with it. Football Manager Boss disputes PlayStation's quote unquote value destructive Xbox Game Pass claim. He says, quote, I don't recognize that in our business. It's all very sunny for us, end quote. And of course, it's like Football Manager's like, it's not a Call of Duty. It's not like, I know even like Bobby Kotick, if you guys followed the FTC stuff, he was like, oh, we don't want Call of Duty on Game Pass. It's destructive to I don't know if he's used those words exactly, that's destructive, but he says it doesn't provide us value. And it doesn't. For a huge game like that, why would you go to Game Pass when you can have people spend $60, $70 a year, right? But a game called Football Manager, they could probably use as many eyeballs as possible, and of course it's sunny for them, right? Because it's like we have more people looking at it than we otherwise would have on Game Pass, right? But what do you make of this, Luis?
Yeah, I think it is, like he is saying, very beneficial to like a certain niche type of developer / audience. Once you get into the larger triple quad A developers, then it's like that value definitely goes down. But for the smaller publishers and developers, it is sort of like, hey, here's this big chunk of change. Let us put this game up, and you can immediately start working on the next thing because you have the cash flow, right? So I think it is. I wouldn't necessarily say you can kind of blanket it as like destructive, like Jim Ryan's trying to talk about. And why is he even saying this? Like, what's the? Because that just builds a case for Microsoft to get Activision.
Yeah, it's all, and I like, some of the stuff that actually has come out of the case, and as far as the judge is concerned, it's like, yeah, these anti-competitive and all this stuff that's going back to Microsoft's, like 20 years ago or however long it was, all those like antitrust cases or whatever it was, or not antitrust, but like anti-consumer or whatever. These things are not anti-consumer. The fact that Microsoft is going to buy Activision Blizzard and saying like, for a low price, consumers have all these games, have Call of Duty, if anything, is like, wait, this is great for consumers. It's like, we shouldn't care about Sony. We shouldn't care about Microsoft in the sense of like, how much money are they going to make? It's like, who cares? $15 for a quote unquote free Call of Duty? That's better for consumers. So I think like coming out of this trial this past week, it's like, you guys actually are making the case for Microsoft to like do it because it's going to be better for consumers, right? But like you were saying, is you can't necessarily make a blanket statement, right? For some games, yes, that's true. When you're a 10 million seller and you're gonna sell it at $60-$70, it doesn't make sense to go to Game Pass, right? But if you're a smaller company, like you were saying about the cash flow, and they could just work on their next thing, Game Pass might work out, right?
Like, wasn't there a game recently that was like, damn, if we had known the game was going to be a huge hit, we wouldn't have done the Game Pass thing. There was, or maybe it was the opposite, like Guardians of the Galaxy or something.
Maybe, I think there's probably, it might have been something like that. Yeah, Guardians, but I mean, it goes both ways. Right? Some of them was like, oh, we could have used the Game Pass to get more eyeballs and stuff on it. Or we shouldn't have been there because we were so mega successful, right? But I think it's tricky the other way. When you're saying you're so successful on Game Pass, it's tricky because it's like, well, maybe you were successful because you were on Game Pass, right? Not if you were trying to sell them. So, I mean, maybe, in a future podcast, if we remember, or if it comes up again, we'll kind of try to bring up that example, right? But the other thing on here, Call of Duty, there's a Call of Duty anti-cheat update that makes cheaters hallucinate imaginary opponents. So that's kind of cool. And as from the FTC trial, of course, Bobby Kotick, just as a related sort of kind of note, he did say it was a bad decision to not bring Call of Duty to Switch. I don't know what you have a yes to, Liz, whether it's the Call of Duty Switch decision or the hallucinating one. So whatever you want to.
Yeah, they recently released sort of like this breakdown on what they've been doing with the Ricochet anti-cheat for Call of Duty. And there was a lot of interesting stuff. The hallucination thing was just one piece of the whole puzzle that they kind of finally revealed. Because they did mention a while ago, like, hey, we're pushing out updates to anti-cheat. We'll update you guys later. And everyone was like, what the hell is going, like, why won't you tell us? Everyone's talking about how there's so many cheaters, blah, 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 this, that. So what they discovered was a lot of interesting stuff, which I'll break down here. I kind of wrote some notes down. Okay. But, so the hallucinations can only be detected by players that have been flagged by the anti-cheat, and they're the only players that can interact with them. All other players don't see them. They're not affected by them in any way whatsoever. And the interesting thing about them is that they're not bots. These hallucinations, they are emulating an actual player in the match that's currently there. So they have realistic movement and tendencies and this and that. Yeah. But on top of that, they're able to detect and place that hallucination relative to where that player is. So let's say the player's turning a corner, they can kind of place that hallucination around the corner so that they're not sort of necessarily seeing them right there, and they can detect, oh, this person has wall hacks. They can actually see the player or shoot them through this door or whatever. Yeah. And when that player interacts with the hallucination, that's when they're flagged by the system, like, okay, let's kind of keep an eye on this guy, right?
Oh, interesting. Okay. I like that.
Let's see what else. So, I like that. On top of that, they've added the Cronuses, which I'm sure you've heard Prue talk about this thing. The Cronus is a controller that you can plug in. It's a third-party thing that shouldn't be able to work on a system, but it does. And it basically allows you to have like no recoil on a gun whatsoever, amongst other things. But they've added improved detection to these things, and they've added a system to where it doesn't ban the player immediately, but it does show up a notification that goes, hey, we just detected you have a Cronus. Please unplug it, or you may be sort of reprimanded, basically.
Okay, it's pretty nice.
And there were statistics behind that 57% of players that got that notification never used the Cronus again. They just never.
Just like as a deterrent, how they're like, oh, hey, we know you're using it. And they're like,
but they had almost a 60% drop in use of Chronuses in general after that update. So players that maybe never even plugged it in, they're like, oh, I'm not even going to risk it, right? They just never even did it.
Yeah.
Then, let's see, they have another feature called Quicksand that slows or completely freezes a player that's like been verified as a cheater, essentially. So they do that by limiting their connection to the server, slowing them down completely. And then on top of that, they can go in there and mess with their key bindings and controls in general. So they'll invert their vertical and horizontal movement. They'll rebind a key so that if pressing forward, they'll move backwards and this and
they'll
that.
just scramble it.
Yeah, essentially. Nice. And it's completely random. They could do it completely random as well.
Yeah.
But the last thing that people are like, okay, if you detect a cheater, why aren't you just banning them?
That's what I was gonna ask. Actually, that was my follow up. Why not just ban them?
And they came out and addressed it directly, and they said, so because it's such a huge business. I think it was like they said it's like $1 billion industry for cheating software, right?
Yeah.
If they were to immediately ban people, they would immediately update it, patch it, person's back and they're cheating again because there's so much money behind it. So what they do is they detect and flag cheaters in secret because they're gathering intel and info on like, okay, so that guy's definitely cheating. Let's monitor what they're doing so that we can in the future ban people automatically without them having to be reported.
Yeah. Okay.
And then on top of that, they said that once a player has been reported, because you can report a player, hey, I think this guy's cheating. Once they've been verified as a cheater, they said that after they've gathered all that information and intel, they've been able to ban an additional 3 players based off of that one report because of all the information that they gathered.
Okay.
So they're going to sort of keep updating it in phases. Once it gets patched, they'll release another thing, and once it gets patched, they'll release another thing. But they're delaying the reports and bans until they gather all the info. They just like a huge sweep, the hammer of dawn, ban everybody at one moment, and then they're like, okay, up to the next update.
Okay.
So if all this stuff kind of goes through and it works with how they're anticipating it to work, I do think that in general it could have some huge sort of leaps and bounds on like anti-cheat in general for like games across the board, because they are being super creative. I mean, hallucinations, like
yeah, dude, that's why I'm like, okay, why not just ban them? But it's kind of cool to think that I was like, ooh, how are we gonna do these Eternal Darkness hallucinations that we were doing back in GameCube era and stuff like? But let's do it for these gamers. So we'll see, man. I'm sure we're gonna hear more about it. Especially it's kind of like a sweeping
Carlos,
thing, right?
We won't see unless you cheat. Do you cheat?
I mean, story-wise, dude. Come on, what are we doing here, man? It's not literal points. It's salient points, Dalan. What are we doing over here?
Stop cheating.
But yeah, stop cheating. But I do like it. I appreciate the fact that they're like getting real creative about it. And do you feel like it's gonna be effective, Lise? Do you feel like this is a more effective way than just let's just straight up ban as soon as we can?
Yeah, I mean, based off of the data they released, it seems like it already is working. It just doesn't feel like it right away because they're not banning them immediately, right? But they're using it to eventually kind of auto detect people and ban them without anyone having to do anything.
All right, so this one feels like one more to dig into, and I'm sure we'll hear about it in the future. I just did want to
their IP.
I wanted to mention real quick, we got some numbers out of like somehow video games, how much they cost. Like for example, Last of Us Part 2 cost $220 million. About 200 employees worked on that game. $212 million for Horizon Forbidden West. About 300 people worked on that game at their peak amount. And Steven Totillo from Axios said that these games made about $300 million. So they doubled their budget. Whatever it was, they did quite well for themselves. But yeah, just to kind of let you guys know out there. And these came out from the FTC reports, by the way. They were supposed to, what is it called? Redact this stuff. They were supposed to redact this stuff. Someone missed the redaction, and here you go. Here's the budgets for Last of Us Part 2 and Horizon Forbidden West. But hey, it's good to see that they made their money back at least. But yeah, these are they're up there. These prices for these games are up there for sure. The next thing we have on here, this one's more for Luis, I believe, but there might be a Red Dead Redemption remaster. I don't know if we mentioned it last week, but I think this is going back like a week or so, where there's a new rating in South Korea that they're kind of re-rating a video game. It usually means there's some remaster or remake or re-release happening. Zach Swizen, I believe is how you say his name, from Kotaku said in a tweet, wrote up more about this, was told Rockstar understands the quote overwhelming demand, end quote, for RDR1 remake, Red Dead Redemption 1 remake, remastered port. Still no confirmation on what this rating refers to, but I believe it's not a full-on remake, but a cleaned up remaster for PlayStation or PC, Xbox One, PlayStation 4. Which is kind of interesting, right? But it should play on the latest hardware, I'm assuming, but at least all these volume of gamers will be able to take part in it. Luis, what do you think, man? You'll grab a cleaned up remaster of Red Dead Redemption 1 if available?
It gets the same treatment as what Grove Street Games did for the GTA trilogy, then probably not.
Okay. Okay. I was thinking the same thing. Like,
probably not.
I did platinum those. I will say I did platinum those trash versions of GTA.
Yes.
They were okay.
You drove a lot of ambulances or whatever to get them.
It was a lot. Yes.
But yeah,
I
mean this in general, whether it's a polished up version or a complete remaster, I mean they have a decent amount of assets from Red Dead Redemption 2 that they could repurpose, and if you flip out of the map, a huge section of Mexico is there already. So but yeah, this is definitely real, whether or not it's one or the other, because these have to be submitted. It's not like they just go like, let's rate this game. This has been submitted by somebody to rate Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
What's up?
Dalan, thank you for raising your hand, sir.
I only raised my hand because I know I said no to this particular one.
Why don't you just change it on it? I'll see that you changed it.
But I'll tell you what, even though people are calling for Red Dead Redemption to be remade, I would very much prefer Red Dead Revolver to be remade, because I know a lot of people just missed that game outright. Even though it made a fair amount of money on its own, people just forget that Red Dead Revolver even existed.
Maybe because it wasn't a Rockstar game. They remember it was Capcom. That's an interesting little anecdote to it, by the way. It was a Capcom game that Rockstar said, this is kind of lit. Let's buy it from Capcom and make it better, man.
But now that they bought it, they could remake it in their own image and probably have it be just as thrilling as Red Dead Redemption.
And from whatever, I don't think I played Revolver, but I think it was like more stage based, like stages. There was stages. It wasn't open world, so it'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah, you're a part of the statistic. You're one of those people that did not play it.
I mean, yeah, but I like it. I like it. What do you think, Luis? Do you care about the original Revolver or care to? I mean, I would like to see it. I think it'd be nice.
I never played it, but I don't necessarily care to play it. I mean, Red Dead 1 was great, Red Dead 2 was great, and I've known that there's enough references to Revolver for me to be like, oh, I know what the game was about.
That's fine.
The story. But now you could have a whole prequel and have it be stupendous, and you might see the trailer and be like, Rockstar, take my money.
They just need to work on GTA 6, man. That's all they got to do, Dan. Stop trying to move their resources. Are they?
Now we're waiting on GTA 7 because they got to be started now or we're never going to get
Put the camera on me, Dalan. Stop logging into GTA 5. All right, that's how we're going to get GTA 6. The other thing, though, is we're getting a Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake. That's in the works. That's a few years away. So we're getting a couple remakes. Look, we're old. I'll speak for myself. I'm old. These games, I was like, damn, didn't that just come out a couple years ago? I was like,
no,
it did, but it's time. But I guess it's time. Everything's gonna get remade.
Like
9 years ago? Yeah, it was a little while ago. Yeah, but we could use a remake of that, sure. The next thing we have on here, of course, is that Nintendo closes the Japanese repair subscription service after 1 year. I have a quote from IGN. They're saying, the Nintendo Switch repair subscription service many fans hoped would come to the West has now been canceled in Japan after just a year. As reported by Nintendo Life, Nintendo announced on its Japanese website it will no longer offer new subscription contracts or renewals as of August 31st, 2023. Were you following this, Dalan? Did you want a Nintendo version of this, or you just kind of now heard about it after it's canceled?
No. It's just the precedence of no longer having the service for repair at all. It's just the fact that just as an example, there's the PlayStation repair services, which are trash, by the way. And you have to send in your system and you don't get it back for months, and they tell you are going to lose all of your data. Just having Nintendo cancel their service makes me think, man, I wonder if those type of repair services are going so downhill that we're going to start getting third party like PC repair people fixing systems again. Because I don't know if you remember, Carlos, we went to the mall to try to get our PS3 fixed, and they fixed it in like 2 days. And then it broke again like a month later. And you want to send it into Sony, but you're not going to.
Okay.
My friend, Jet, I almost doxed him.
Oh, you've doxed him. He's been doxed. People just have to go back a few episodes and so.
But Jet, he had to send in his Nintendo Switch to get that repaired. That was like 3 months ago, I think. And I had not heard that he even got it back yet.
All right, so you're sad about this, Dalan. You're upset about this. It will not come to the US.
I would getting rid of some of those repair services that the actual companies like to try and provide. If we get rid of those, then we can have local ones, and it can make it easier on gamers.
Okay. I don't know. I think it's very, I don't know. It's very confusing what you said, because you're saying it's a bad thing, but it's a good thing, because you said you took it to one of those mans and that it broke within 2 days, but you want that?
Yeah, those were different times. That was the Wild West. I think what he's talking about is what Apple does. Apple's doing now with the whole right to repair thing, where you can kind of do like this test essentially to become an Apple certified repair shop.
Okay.
And then people can go, oh, that's a Nintendo certified repair shop. Let me take my Joy-Con over there or whatever.
I need it, man. I need that.
I think that's just them doing that the smart way versus just outright canceling the repair service altogether and just, again, letting it be the Wild West. You are right, Luis. I would prefer them do it the Apple way.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I hope that if that's that comes from this, then that's a good thing, right? Because I definitely need some drift repairs going on, man. It's a problem.
My PS5 controller, both joysticks do not work anymore. Or at least they work. They're drifting hard.
One of them is drifting too. I was just talking off wax with Luisa. I need to get another controller because this thing is like I'm walking straight on, and all of a sudden my guy's like, "Let me go left. Let me just turn left real quick." So I definitely need a new controller. Okay, the next story we have on here is that Overwatch 2 will not be getting any more story missions until 2024. 3 of the story missions are coming out August 10th. Then after that, we have to wait till next year. But there is an animated miniseries called Genesis coming out later this week, so that's kind of interesting. We're getting stories somehow, just not part of the game. What do you think of this, Dalan? You got some thoughts?
From my recollections, that Overwatch itself didn't have a lot of story missions to begin with, but the fact that they even have story missions at all is actually an awesome step for Overwatch. I know when I played Overwatch, and it was strictly just multiplayer, just PvPing the whole time and doing the little missions thing. Both me and you, Carlos, we fell off of that game pretty fast.
We tried it for a couple matches there.
Yeah, we tried. I made it to like level 20, and I know.
Now, are you willing to pay $15 for these 3 missions, Dalan? Are you willing to pay the $15?
If they are nice long missions, it's gonna last me like 4 hours. Then yeah.
No, they're gonna be like 20 minutes at a time, man.
Yeah, they're gonna go the way of Star Wars Battlefront 1. You're gonna have 15-minute missions at a time. It's like 3 missions. You're like, all right,
kill 10 things. Kill 10 things, and here's some audio. All right, the next thing we have on here is that Valve is apparently, they have a new AI-generated content policy, which means that they want whatever company developer puts games on there, they want to be able to kind of abide by all these copyright rules. And I think people were like, they're trying to say we don't want any AI-generated thing, but they said, quote, it's not to discourage the use of it on Steam. They just want the companies to be able to have parameters and be like, don't infringe on other people's copyrights with your AI-generated things. So I guess Steam is okay with it. They just don't want you to abuse it, I guess is the thing. One thing that was abused this past week, though, Dalan, Far Cry 1's entire source code got leaked online, man. Did you follow this story? Are you following this thing, or what's your interest on this, Dalan? The ransom money?
No, I had heard about it, and I was thinking about the ransom situation. I was like, Far Cry is going the way of Cyberpunk, and what was the other one? I think it was The Witcher, wasn't it?
It's the same company, right? But I think it definitely was Cyberpunk held up ransom at gunpoint for the source code, right?
Give us $1 million, and we're going to release it. They said, no, there goes your source code.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it? It's a terrible situation. Yeah, just a quick note.
Okay, reasonable, because they're never quick, Dalan. If people don't know, on the rundown, Yeah, that's why I put it in quotes, because they're supposed to be quick takes. But then you're like, I want to tell you about my friend that I saw the other day, and he took his system to the shop, and then it came back. Next thing, Jujutsu Kaisen Curse Clash is going to be a 2v2 action game. It got announced at Bandai Namco's Summer Showcase. Dalan, you're hyped? Did you look into this? Did you watch a trailer or anything?
I have not had a chance to look into the trailer because I was too busy playing another game. But I'm down for a good Jujutsu Kaisen game because we haven't actually had one yet. Okay. And I'm hoping it doesn't go the route of Dragon Ball and Demon Slayer of just trying to be a cash grab. I hate those.
I was gonna tell you, it's gonna be one of those. Dylan, don't have high hopes. Cash grab?
Yeah, you didn't make me sad.
You should be sad. I mean, it's not my fault, man. You should just know this. They don't respect anime. They don't respect it. I don't know what to tell you. They don't respect it enough. Even like highly, critically acclaimed Demon Slayer stuff, they don't care, Dalan.
One Piece got a good game recently, apparently.
It was all right. It was pretty decent. I quit on it after a little while. Yeah. By the way, for people that don't know, off wax, I'm always referring to any anime as a Jujutsu Kaisen anime. All right, I've never seen it. I don't know what it looks like, but Jujutsu Kaisen is any anime for me. Is it nice? I hear there's a season 2. Or that's dropping or something.
And a movie.
Okay, maybe I gotta check it out, and maybe I'll know.
A second movie?
I don't know.
No, a movie season 1, season 2's coming up.
Okay, thank you.
Well, see, there you go. I don't know about it. Maybe once I look into it, I won't call every anime Jujutsu Kaisen. All right, maybe I'll know the difference.
You were out there just calling every anime Inuyasha at some point. You were calling every anime Rurouni Kenshin.
Oh, that's the one, Rurouni Kenshin. That's the one that was Rurouni Kenshin. I was like, I don't know. I've seen these names online, and that's what I tell Dalan. I was like, what about Rurouni Kenshin, Dalan? What about that one? What about the detective boy that hits people with his yo-yo? The next thing we have on here is Xbox Series X and S together have sold over 21 million units, and I looked it up because some of the comments online was like, oh man, they haven't sold a lot, and it's like, oh, it's kind of true, because the last reporting as far as how many PlayStation 5s have sold is almost 40 million units of that, and The Verge reported on that on April 28th, 2023. So
not a single one was Prue.
Not a single one was our buddy Prue over there. But so 2-1, and I think that even Microsoft might have said it in the FTC stuff, where like they're beating us 2-1. So it kind of falls in line with that. What do you make of this, Dana? I know you bought one of those S's, and I bought one of those X's that's over here just gathering dust.
I was just going to say, Xbox Series S is doing just fine. You had that, there was a complaint, I think by even Microsoft at the time, where they were talking about how the components don't hold up as well as X. I believe you had that conversation with me at some point, how I needed to switch up to an X because it will never hit that 4K, and some games do not run very well on the S. It runs just fine for me.
Oh, no, yeah, I don't know about I forget the exact details of that. I guess you'd have to bring, I don't know if that was the exact conversation, but it is a weaker system. The Series S is the entry-level version of the Xbox Series X.
But so you find 20 million is still a good number for a system.
Yeah, I think so. And I think they still got a ways to go, and that was their whole plan with the Series S, that it's kind of entry-level to get people into quote-unquote next-gen, which it is, but it is causing some issues, and I know I have on here, maybe we could kind of talk about that, and we'll move that one up a little bit, but it has caused issues with, for example, Baldur's Gate 3. That got pushed up to an August 3 date on PC. It got a slight delay on PS5 to September 6th, but the Xbox Series X or S version is not coming out for a good while until they do some quote-unquote compromises, and mainly that it has a poor split-screen co-op performance on Xbox Series S. That's kind of the main problem there, Dale. So, you saying that it's doing perfectly just fine. Apparently not, because it's keeping a full-on game from launching on Xbox, right? But what's your response, man? Explain yourself.
Man, the S is for people who don't have co-op, local co-op people to be playing with. Online, it's probably fine. It probably was fine to be doing it online. But local co-op is probably too much for that hardware. I can't defend that. Microsoft, this was Microsoft's decision. Yeah. They're going to have to live with it.
Oh, they're living with it. And us gamers are not getting a game because of it yet. They got to go, they got to take it to the drawing board. But, so that.
But are you really going to play Baldur's Gate, Carlos?
Hey, look. Hey, A fair question deserves a fair answer. No, probably not. I don't know, but maybe on PS5 now. Now maybe I'll play it on PS, and I'll have to because I have no other choice. The other thing that we don't have another choice on is that Gollum developer Daedalic Entertainment is shutting down development. They will more focus on publishing. They laid off 25 people, and I did see from Legacy Killer HD, who we quote on here pretty regularly. He said, "Damn, no Gollum 2." So somebody is definitely going to be missing that sequel. Yeah, what do you make of this? I mean, look, I'm not trying to laugh at their, misfortune or whatever it is, but I mean, you don't feel too bad when a game isn't great.
Because you're not laughing at the people that worked on it. You're laughing at decisions made by people in charge of that situation.
Yes. Thank you. Exactly. Yes.
But to add to that, I'm pretty sure it's Daedalic Entertainment.
Okay. Daedalic. Okay. All right.
He said,
I'll take
me
it.
Correct you.
I mean, I'll take it. That's fair.
I'm not 100%. I said I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a shame, obviously, for sure. I mean, but the thing that now kind of has me confused is whether or not this was a repercussion of the bad launch, or if it was a bad launch because this was already kind of sort of happening. Okay. Like maybe they released it in the state, because there's no way they didn't know that thing was broken, right? There's no way that like
it looked.
So I'm wondering if they were like, "Fuck it, dude, we gotta see if we can make some money back on this thing," and they're just like, "Ship it." And now that it had a terrible launch, they were forced to lay these people off. So I'm wondering if they sort of tried to pack in as much as they could in that time before running out of money completely. Yeah. But that's.
You're saying they saw the writing on the wall?
I mean, it seems like it, because there's I don't know, because they did mention themselves that they're like, we're gonna go back and try to fix this game and hopefully give players the experience that they deserve, and then they lay off 25 people and say, no, we're not developing anything anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's something interesting, and sometimes you don't really find out until after the fact either, right? Like, for example, the one I can think of is with Redfall, and the fact that when Microsoft bought Bethesda, they were like, please cancel this game, and they're like, nah, we'll launch it. It's part of it'll bolster our Game Pass, whatever, and it comes out, and people are like, fuck, man. So
why would you do this to yourself?
Potentially one of those things that, because they're not shutting down completely, right? They're saying we're gonna go back to, well, I don't know if back to, but they're gonna go to publishing. So maybe it was already in the works. It's like, okay, let's get this out and let's just focus on publishing, right? So it could be, one of those things. We'll find out, I guess, in the future. Mm-hmm. One of the other things that we have on here is that Peter Molyneux, who is the original creator of Fable, apparently he likes what he's seen from the new trailer of I should have put the Playground Games. I think it's Playground Games who's working on the new Fable, and he says there's quote unquote, it has that quote unquote that ridiculous energy of the original. So Peter Molyneux, the original the original Sean Murray, I would say the original Sean Murray, maybe after Kojima or pre-Kojima even, but he was definitely a hype man for all these Fable games for a long time. So the fact that he's like, it's got that kind of energy, bro. So I don't know, we'll see. Maybe the new Fable's gonna be nice if the father of the franchise is hyped for it. The other thing we have on here is that The Sims 5 will be free to play and have Fortnite-style user-generated content. That's according to Eurogamer, which I'm kind of happy for, I think, mainly because my daughter really loves The Sims 4. And there's always apparently there's always $40-$50 packs coming out. I'm like, how many packs do you need? I mean, I understand I'm a gamer. How many packs do we need of Destiny 2? How many packs do we need of Halo? Whatever, right? I get it. But it's like every month my child is asking me for $40, $50 like game packs or whatever on Sims. So maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I guess we'll see how The Sims 5 rolls out on a free-to-play model, right? Because I'm sure there's going to be plenty of things to buy on there as well. But what do you think, Luis? What do you make of this, man?
Hey, man, sometimes you got to finally wash your clothes in The Sims. That's why you need to spend $40 on that pack.
Okay.
Or whatever. Or reprimand your children with the family pack, Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is the thing that's been happening on PC for a while now. I don't know if it goes back to The Sims 3, but definitely Sims 4, since its long tenure around, has been supporting user-generated content by third party. They've been supporting it, but like people kind of have to opt in and like, hey, I made this dress or this piece of hair or clothing or a chair or something, and you can kind of side load it into your game. So I'm wondering if this just kind of means that they'll be supporting that with also their console releases as well. And if they're going free to play, then I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of transaction involved there, whether it'll be people that upload their UGC and then people buy downloaded Electronic Arts gets a piece of it or whatever. But yeah, I think it's a good move, especially since Sims 4 has been out for a while. They come up with the next one and kind of get people to move on, right?
Yeah.
From that to this one, so yeah.
But and free to play means you play it on everything, right? I know the big thing for when my daughter was trying to get into it, she's like, okay, I think we have a version on PC, we have a version on PlayStation, so it's kind of like, and I think we bought each one, so it's one of those things where if it's free to play, then at least the client or the initial download is free, I guess, right? But we'll see. Hopefully they kind of do well for the users and for the parents. That's key for the parents. But we'll see what happens when the Sims 5 releases. The other thing is that Honkai Star Rail, you've been talking about it for a couple weeks now, Lee, is the biggest console launch of the fall. That's what Steven Totillo from Axio says. And there's been $355 million spent since it launched on mobile in April. So this thing is kind of off like a rocket ship, and you knew about it, Luis. You kind of knew, man. You could sense it in the gameplay.
It does. I don't know if you intended for that pun, because it does, sort of take place in space.
Okay.
You said rocket ship.
Yes, of course I intended that.
Yeah, no, I did.
Of course.
Of
course I did. Come on, bro.
This isn't even counting because it's still forthcoming for console. It's supposed to come out on PS5 at some point, so they're still not even making their fullest potential.
Oh, okay, I see. So it's not out yet. That's why he's saying the console launch this in the fall when it comes out. Okay, got you. All right. But
yeah, we talked about it this past weekend. I've spent my fair share of money on this game, but I don't think it's going to be like a continuous sort of monthly subscription kind of situation. They do have one.
Do you dare disclose the amount you spent?
Yeah, 110.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I had to get.
Well, what happened to that extra $10? You said 120.
Oh, there's a discrepancy.
Did I say 120?
I think off wax, yeah.
I meant to say 110.
I think off wax you might say 120. But like Dalan says, like, why don't you just play the game? So answer that question, Lynx. Why don't you just play the game? Why did you have to?
Because I wanted to get the light cone. Time was running out. I needed.
Time was running out. That's the problem. They put that.
That's how they get
you, man. That time is running out.
That's how they get you, man. Like time was running out.
But I want this character. Time is gone. Son of a bitch. Now I'm sad. Everybody else has got it.
Dalan, stop stepping on his lines, man.
I did talk over him a little bit on that time. But we're almost halfway through this event right now, and I have not pulled this character, so I'm starting to kind of get itchy. But we'll see, because they basically, so they allow you to test the character out. They're like, hey, there's the new character.
That's how they get you.
Press this button for the trial version. You could do a couple essentially battles with them to kind of see the skill set.
Yeah. And
then you can see if you want him or not,
Okay.
But he's kind of nice. This new character's kind of nice.
That's a little devilish, man. That's a little dark pattern. He's like, here you go. Have this character, try him out, see how you like him, see how it suits you. But it does show you the confidence, right, that they have in like, we're so confident you're gonna love this shit. That
the problem
try it.
With my team compositions I have available, I really do not need this character whatsoever, but I just want him.
Okay, that's reasonable. All right, Dalan, you stepped on his. Anything else then before we move on to the next thing? Okay, you just want to step on his lines, huh?
No. But I will say they did the same exact thing in Genshin Impact, which is why I was always upset every time the special event was gone. You would see that time just ticking down. You're like, I don't want to spend the money.
You're just looking at it. You're like, hey, that's what it is, man. That's what it is with these.
During the event period, they raised the percentage of you being able to get that character in those special drops, and then when the event is gone, it goes from like 50% after 12 tries down to like 2%. and you're like, no.
Okay, reasonable. All right, well, hey, look, there's another free-to-play that's out there that Niantic, it shuts down NBA All World and Marvel World of Heroes, laying off 230 employees, man. So that's kind of like, that's a lot of employees when we were just talking about Daedalic or however that the name of that company is called. Daedalic. They only let go 25 people. 230 people, man. So it's kind of wild. NBA All World. Apparently they only gave it like 6 months, and I remember I tried it out. I even tried it out for like a day. At least you tried it out for a little while, right? But it's wild, right? It's like these things better take off in 6 months, or we're shutting this shit down. Yeah. Did you have any thoughts on that, Lisa? Or...
Yeah, I mean they're making the smart move and shutting it down, but the problem is well, specifically what they did with the Harry Potter version, it was essentially a copy-paste version of what Pokemon Go is, except the encounter situation was a little different. And it was similar to All World. They added some things to it. You have to, train your players, put shots up, this and that. They have like an energy system and all that. But I think they're trying to put what's kind of the saying? They have their hands in too many. They're basically balancing too many spinning plates. Kind of situation.
There's too many hands in the pot.
Yeah, there you go, something like that. So, and the Marvel thing, I don't even think that released. I think they're just canning it. Like, okay, we're not even working on that.
Snaps.
I feel like I remember them announcing that they're working on a Transformers version. Don't know what's going to happen with that. So I think they just need to kind of ride the prized horse and keep pushing that, and then maybe work on one where they're like, okay, it's different enough.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I thought I heard about it, but you're saying it wasn't launched. There was another game, Snap, I think, right? Marvel Snap or something. That one's taken off, but it's probably a different company.
That's a completely different developer, and the game is actually a lot of fun.
Okay, there you go, man. So, yeah, but these things, it's rough. It's a rough business out there, man. They said, no, we'll give you 6 months. And I think we talked about it off wax a little bit, but I think as part of it is the licensing too, right? I mean, when you're licensing the NBA and all these players with the association and all that, I doubt it's cheap, right, to try to get all these people kind of paid. The next thing we have on here is that CD Projekt's comms boss says, as far as Cyberpunk's 2077's troubled launch, quote, "It became a cool thing not to like it. We went from hero to zero really fast," end quote. Which I'm like, to me, I was thinking like, dude, shut up. You guys need to just shut up. Let your expansion just come out and just have people enjoy it, man. Have people enjoy the update. Have people enjoy the game. It's looking good. Idris Elba, who I'm a big fan of, right? It's like, shut up. Stop saying shit. Just shut up. But Luis, your thoughts, man?
He really should
the whole
stop
company
bringing up
to
the past, dude.
Yeah.
Just take the L on the chin, move on. It's behind you. They've turned it around. They've since turned it around. Just stop bringing up the past, right? Yeah. We know your information's still out on the black market somewhere, maybe in someone's computer.
They didn't pay the ransom.
We just talked about your terrible ransom situation.
Fucking source code. Someone's out there messing with The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk. But yeah, it's like, to add on to his point, though, just because he brought it up, I guess, I do think it is sort of kind of the nature of it's been the effectiveness of that, or not the effectiveness, but sort of the amount of how the hate sort of stacks up on things, I think has grown exponentially within recent years. It's always kind of been like, hey, this game's buggy, this, that, whatever. But I don't know if it's a COVID thing or what, with like people just kind of jump on it a little more without even.
The answer to that is yes, Luis.
They've never played the game. They've never even looked at a video of it or nothing. They've just seen kind of clips on Twitter or TikTok or whatever, and like, yeah, that game's trash. I hate that game. It's like, well, did you ever try it? Did you ever go back and check it out? So I do think it is kind of, to his point, it is sort of like it's cool to jump on the beat the dead horse when it's already like essentially down and out.
Look, he might have a valid point. I think so. I agree with you, right? People will jump on these, and it's as far as the trending stuff or whatever. Like, let me just say something real quick, right? And I think people will put that out there. But it's kind of also what you said is like, just take the L, man, and move on, dude. just don't. It's like, hey, be excited for the expansions coming out. I don't have no more.
You guys remember when our game was trash? Yeah, we didn't like it.
Yeah. we didn't like. Now you guys think it's cool, but when it was bad, you guys trashed it. I was like, man.
It's like, and I'm just on the side like, why are you bringing that up? Just let people forget.
Just let people forget. Put it down, man. So the next things that people don't want to forget, and we were hoping that it comes to fruition. I would like this following thing to come to fruition: is that Scorpion and Sub-Zero would. You know, the creator would be okay with it showing up at Smash Brothers, in Super Smash Brothers. This is via GoNintendo.com. Ed Boon was asked by Axios who'd he'd hand over to Nintendo for Smash, and his answers most likely won't surprise longtime Mortal Kombat fans. He said, quote, Scorpion, not even a hesitation. I guess if they want to, it would be Scorpion and Sub-Zero, end quote. So as far as the Mortal Kombat creator is concerned, let's throw them into Smash Brothers, but of course, it hasn't. I don't think Nintendo necessarily wants that kind of violence on their Smash Brothers, game. But we'll see. You know, they're definitely willing on that side. Dalan, what do you think, man?
Well, there was a game of DC versus Mortal Kombat at some point, and they were able to do that just fine, and they were just less bloody and stuff like that. They didn't really kill people for the most part. And that said, Ed Boon, do it.
Well, he's willing to. Nintendo has to be willing to. Plus, DC and Nintendo, come on, Dalan, they're not the same thing, all right? They're not the same thing.
I understand that DC is not the same as Nintendo, but the fact is that if you are even thinking, hey, maybe I should get Scorpion and Sub-Zero on Smash Brothers, do it.
Yeah, but
you got Cloud and Sephiroth. Throw them on.
I do like how far we've come as far as like DC, right? Like DC was like, we don't like all that violence. They go from that to the Joker, which is basically a sequel to Taxi Driver, I would say. So how far we've come from those times, right? I'll add in here real quick. Tim Shafer, creator of Psychonauts, he said that Psychonauts 3 is not being worked on at the moment. I don't know if you guys played it, but if you have Game Pass, play that game. It's excellent. What I try to do is go back to play the original. That game was rough. It was so rough that I got to the very end. I might have said it on Wax, but I got to the very end and I was like, I'm done with this. I've seen enough. And I went to YouTube, watched the end cutscene, and that was it. But Psychonauts 2 is nice. It's nice, very playable. You won't rage quit. But as far as Tim Shafer is concerned, the creator, he's saying they're not working on it at the moment. The next thing we have on here is that Nintendo wants to produce enough units of its next console to make sure scalping isn't a major issue. So we'll see how kind of they provide that. I think these guys are just biding time, dude. They're just bullshitting. They don't know how to move on from the cash cow that is the Switch 1.0 and SWOLED. So they're like, all right, look, we're working on it. We just want to make sure Prue can't profit from this. All right. But at least, what do you make of this, sir?
Yeah, I think I feel like I remember hearing another company talk about this. I don't know. I don't remember who it was. It might have not necessarily been a game publisher or whatever company, but it is kind of a fair point, I guess, if it is true and it is fully based on that and not just them like, we don't know where to go from here, man. Yeah. But yeah, because obviously the whole thing where they make people like get put on a wait list and get sent unique links and this, that, and the other, it doesn't seem like it's working. Or they feel like it's sort of hindering the people that do want to buy their products sort of experience of like, damn, now you got to wait and like be put on a queue and you could only buy one at a time and this and that. So
and you might miss on people just the fact that like, this is too hard to get this, whatever, and they'll just move on with their lives, right? Whereas they would have been able to jump on a trend and be like, I just want one. I just want one. Mm-hmm. I want to grab one. Yeah. Dalan, what do you think, sir?
I think this just reminds me how much I hate scalping, because I remember in the middle of COVID how people were trying to get systems. It was just a struggle for everybody, except for those who scalped them. And you see people sniping online and just taking systems right out from underneath people, and then they'll turn around and sell it for an exorbitant amount, which is why we have the whole super expensive graphic card issue. So it's very frustrating to even have to talk about scalpers again. Every time a new system comes out now, we're going to have to talk about scalpers, and I hate that.
Well, there you go. Nintendo's trying to they're biding their time, dude. They're not sure how to follow up on it, but I think it's a good thought process as well, right? Okay, let's get our ducks in a row and make sure people can't take advantage.
Whatever it is, it's not gonna work,
dude. I'm ready to move on from the stinky Switch, man. I'm ready, man. They need to create the next nice like.
Can't even run an old Link game at full frames, dude.
You know what? I'm surprised. I think I talked about it before, but it runs smooth enough. But yes, there are times where it's like, this wouldn't happen.
I'm talking about the miniature version.
The Link's Awakening. Damn, that's rough, man. Because it can run a full-on open world, but they can't run a top-down 3D cute chibi version of Link's Awakening. Dalan, this one's for you before we get into a little bit more talk of our gameplay for this. But Final Fantasy 16 has sold 3 million copies. That's an official Final Fantasy 16 official tweet. I kind of did the math, and I was like, I think the math that I did, that kind of made them about 200 million or so. And I'm like, I saw a Square Enix quote that they're like, oh, we spent 700 million. But now that I saw the Last of Us stuff and this other like at 200, I was like, I don't know if that's true. Maybe they're talking about their whole catalog that they spent almost $1 billion. But anyways, Final Fantasy 16 has sold 3 million copies. And are you happy for their success? Because you don't tweet about it. Like Xbox doesn't tell us about their hardware sales. You don't tweet about it unless it's a good thing.
In the long run, I'm not surprised, even with all the what is that word, the hate that went around for Final Fantasy for a little bit when it dropped. I'm still not surprised. I mean, there's the fan base is way too large at this point for any Final Fantasy that is a direct title to fail. As long as it's not like a side thing like Crystal Bearers or something like that, some random thing on the side. I can't remember those other ones that came out. What was it? Final Fantasy...
World of Final Fantasy,
World of Final Fantasy,
like wacky stuff.
I know what all that wacky stuff. I'm not surprised that those might fail. But when you have a straight up number attached to it and it is a direct game of Final Fantasy, they're gonna get minimum 2 million copies.
Yeah. So I mean, and 3 million copies. That's considering like it's for the most part, for all intents and purposes, it's a PlayStation exclusive, right? It's not on Xbox, and it's one of those things where it's like it's got a lower installed base. It's 40 million, so 3 million from 40 million installed base. Imagine if it was more. If you're considering like a PS4 install base or something, right?
Hey,
so
man, if Returnal at 500K was a smash hit,
yes. Returnal at 500K, made on, but I'm pretty sure Returnal was made on a string. What is it? A shoestring budget, man. So they could have sold 20,000 copies and it would have been a smash.
That
success.
Is true.
So they look nice though. But so 3 million copies are doing all right. Dalan, and we'll get into that. I don't know if Luis is gonna. We're not gonna get too spoilery. Promise me, Dalan. We're not gonna get
any spoilery.
And the good thing, Luis, is I'm further ahead right now than Dalan, so I'm gonna tamper it down a little bit. But Luis, what's the code word? Do you need us to make a sign to you for you to go next or something like that? I don't know if you're gonna mute us when we talk Final Fantasy.
I mean, I wouldn't say to me necessarily, because there might be someone listening that doesn't want spoilers. So just say, hey, spoilers coming.
All right. Well, we'll try to keep it unspoilery, please, Dalan. But Final Fantasy 16. This game is pretty nice, man. It's a pretty nice game. You can see all the money that was put into this game, even though there's certain sections where it's like, it looks a little rough. And you always notice when they didn't spend too much money because you can skip the text line by line or section by section.
Oh, that's when you know you're not in a cutscene.
That's when you know all the money wasn't put into this. This is stock footage you're looking at right now. So you can skip the lines. And I'm always trying to skip the lines, even in cutscenes. Even though I know it looks beautiful as hell, I'm like, they're just talking too much. But I will say one of these things, I don't know if it's kind of worked out so far, and I know people have complained about it, but it's very Game of Thrones influence, but not 100% there, right? Like there's violence, there's blood, there's nudity, but some of it is kind of like
partial nudity.
Yeah, but yes, okay, I'll specify partial nudity. But some of it is like, well, they don't go too far in that sense, and it's enough to be alienating to people that are, wanted more of a hardcore RPG experience, which to me, I'm kind of like, I'm always thinking too, like, damn, this would have been nice if it's like attack, defense, and shield, and you're kind of strategizing that way, but I'm like, I think I'm all right with that, though. I think I'm all right with all the slashing and action-y heavy things. But what do you make of it, Dalan? Do you like it? Do you like the kind of Game of Thrones, even though they didn't go full Game of Thrones, it still has a lot of Final Fantasy-ishness to it?
Oh, I love the direction that they took the story in.
Okay.
I dislike the fact that you got to set aside 2 hours to do one chapter.
These are they're long. They're long. Yes, they're long.
It was one of those things like, all right, let me play this game for 20 minutes just to see what the next section is like, and you're in there for an hour waiting for this cutscene.
There's some long cutscenes. There's some long cutscenes for sure.
I mean, they like partition the story in between each scenes, and you could pause it. Don't get me wrong, and you probably put the game in the rest mode. But if you're trying to do anything else, set time aside so you know that you can get through that chapter or cutscene, whatever it is. Because whatever cutscene's coming up, you're minimum 15 minutes.
But don't the cutscenes are long, but they're not Xeno's Saga. I don't know if you remember Xeno's Saga Part 1 or something on PS2.
They're not boring.
And they're not boring. They're for the most part they're entertaining, but you know, I like it. I like the action of it. Is there anything in specific like action moves or anything like that? I guess not too spoilery, but anything kind of cool or as far as the mechanics.
Well, there are two things I wanted to say in this regard.
Okay.
When it comes to story, I love the fact that there's always something going down. There's always something big happening. And I think anybody who plays it would just love that the entire time. You think you're going to get bored of it? Nope. Something big happened. You're back in it again. But when it comes to mechanics, though, my only issue for the mechanics-wise is you were talking about RPG elements. I would say closer to JRPG elements that were taken out of it. So it actually, the game itself is too action oriented for me in regards to a Final Fantasy. They really kind of took out the need for tactics. Even if you wanted to actually make it action oriented, you could have at least had something implemented in the battle system that required different tactics.
Yeah, because I don't know about you.
The same tactics for all.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Dan, but there's a lot of button mashing going on my end. There's very button mashing, waiting for my meters to kind of go. I was like more button mashing, but with more power, or and so it's one of those things that. It's very button mashy or whatever, but I do like kind of because I know I've seen even people complain that it might be a little too easy, but I've died a couple times. But it is funny that in a game where I'm maybe like 30 hours in, I've only died like twice. And even then, when you restart, they tell you it's like, oh, you can come right back to where you were in the middle of a fight with more potions, and all this stuff. Give it back.
I think that's just when you're in the middle of like a major fight that you can't really get away from. If you fall in like a side battle, because there are hunts that you can do in this game. And I died against one of those hunts, and they were like, do you want to go to the nearest checkpoint that you had? And I said yes, and it took me really far away, and I had to run all the way back to the hunt. I didn't like that. But I did get a chance to restock my items and stuff like that.
Yeah. Just like any Final Fantasy, you mentioned it already, but there's you think it's gonna be big, and it's bigger than you think it's gonna be. It's like, okay, I'm trying to keep it non-spoilery, but a battle will get huge and bigger and bigger. Like, there's a lot of shit going down right now, man.
At some point, I was like, this game is just going to keep getting more ridiculous. It's like,
So if you like that aspect of it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, it's kind of wacky. It's kind of wacky like that. I like it. I will say this, though, Dalan. So you said, like, some of the chapters do take a while. I noticed that there's a lot of filler, man. For a game that, from what I understand, is maybe like a 40-hour RPG, I still feel like there's filler, and I notice like I'll be falling asleep, man. I'll be like, okay, I'm this kind of sleepy moments, and then you'll get to some big battles and the big like sequence, and you're like, oh, I'm ready, I'm hyped again. So there's quite
why we play video games.
Yes,
this is the epitome of that, and these cutscenes are too beautiful.
The epitome of that is still God of War, man. This is why we play video. This is nice. But this is why we play video games, is very much God of War to this day. But I will say I've been gififying some of the scenes. I try to keep it with almost no context, but I keep sending them to Luis. And especially, there's a guy that slams a table, Dalan, if you remember. There's a guy that slams a table, and he's very like, fuck. So it's very nice. It's very nice. Very nice and epic.
They were dropping F-bombs for a good minute.
So that's what I'm saying, right? Like, there's the Game of Thrones, like, there's F-bombs, and there's slight nudity, action scenes and stuff like that, but it's not full on Game of Thrones. So, but I like it. I do like the direction, and it's still, they don't leave the Final Fantasy stuff too far behind. The fantastical stuff is still there, right? Any other thoughts, Dan, before we get into what Luis has been playing?
Without spoiling the game,
Please.
No, I'm just gonna move on.
I think, you know what? So what I was thinking, Dale, and maybe wait for Dale as well. Maybe we could do a full-on spoiler cast for this game. So once, because I think we're both, me and you are definitely pretty far in it, and I think Dale, I know he's been kind of dealing with some stuff, but he might have had a chance to really fully delve into it. Maybe we could do a spoiler cast, and let's just dig deep in like the wackiness of this game, right?
Luis, when are you gonna hop into the fold?
Probably not for a while.
Yeah,
because I did mention I still haven't played 7, and I know my case isn't because I know it's a continuing story or whatever, because I know it's not. It's just I already have a Final Fantasy game I haven't played, so
okay, there you go. See, I didn't break. I was gonna break my brain in that way, as I usually do, to be honest, as I'm wont to do. I was thinking I haven't played the Final Fantasy 7 Crisis Core remake or whatever it is. I think I haven't played, and I was thinking I should play that before 16, but I was like, nah, man, I'm too hyped. I'm so hyped that I might have bought it somewhere from a store that broke a street date. So I was like, you know, I'm too hyped. I don't care about that. It's gonna take too long. I'm just gonna dig right into 16. But Luis, let's get to you, man. What have you been playing this past week?
As I told you in a text this past week, I've been wandering around aimlessly in the Old West still taking my slow playthrough, and this game's definitely still bugged out, man. It's interesting, but nothing game breaking. It's just there's things where you're like, that definitely shouldn't be happening, but it's still, you know, keeps the integrity of the experience as far as not crashing or breaking or whatever. But yeah, I've made it to, since I don't know if Dalan is ever going to plan on playing this game, I won't say spoilers, but I will say I've made it to the location in the swamps now, in the swamp area.
Oh, you can spoil that away. I don't mind. I do want to play the game, but you're welcome.
You'll forget by the time you get around to it.
So I've moved to Shady Bell, the camp outside of Saint Denis at this point, and I got to a point where because like I said, I've been kind of trying to explore every nook and cranny of the game. I got to this point where I saw an icon in the camp show up, and I'm like, wait, I don't remember seeing that in my last playthrough. What is this? Or in my last 3 playthroughs, technically, because I have another one.
Gone in deep, man.
But yeah, I looked at it, and then when you can kind of hover over an icon in the map, it kind of brings up an explanation of what it is or why that person wants to speak to you. And I'm like, okay, I definitely don't remember that. What is this? And I started playing it and kind of waiting for the dialogue, the cutscene that plays. And I'm like, okay, for sure, I never saw this. What the hell's going on here? How did I trigger this situation? I'm like, is this a secret camp mission or what? End up searching online, and apparently this was a mission that was only available to people that pre-ordered the deluxe edition of the game. And because I recently moved out, all my PS4 games are in storage, and I was like, when I wanted to play the game, I'm like, oh fuck, okay, I guess I'll just buy it on the PlayStation Store. It was on sale for like $20 or something, or maybe like $14.
But it was
so I guess that version just so happened to be the deluxe special edition, whatever, and I had access to this mission now.
Okay, nice.
But it was a bank robbery that I had never done, so that was interesting in the sense where I was like, whoa, this is actually something legitimately I have never experienced in this game. Yeah. And it was nice kind of hearing the characters involved in the robbery talking with each other and where you go to, and
yeah, and it's a nice little surprise in that way, though, right? And it's such a high quality game that even the side missions, they're side missions, and you can tell that it's not a fully formed mission or whatever. But it's such a high quality game that it's like, this is beautiful, man. Like I understand your marvel at something you haven't played before, marveling, and the fact that you're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So,
but I have on top of that, I think I could kind of pick up the pace now because I've taken care of a lot of those sort of side situations going on with like getting all the legendary animals, getting all the legendary fish. I'm kind of in the exotic collector. I don't know if you ran into that guy or not, because you could miss it. It's an optional sort of situation.
I think I remember, but I critical path, man. So most likely I could have missed
this exotic collector that wants essentially you to collect a bunch of very rare pieces off of animals in the game to bring them so you could like make clothes or whatever to sell.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I've gotten all the legendary animals, all the fish. I'm kind of slightly worried. I don't know how much I'm going to commit to that because that one is hard. Unanimously, people are like, "Fuck Rockstar for making this thing, dude," because you have to finish this to 100%, and it's the most like grueling, grindy. Because the animals are so rare, they rarely spawn. Even when you go to their location, they might not be there 90% of the time. So,
and this is you. I think you were telling us off wax. Yes, we were hanging out yesterday, and you said you're not gonna platinum this game. You're not gonna go for it.
I don't think so, man.
It's just too much, man. At some point, it's too much.
Yeah, so I might be able to pick up the pace and actually hit the story missions because I'm at that point, like we were telling Jeremy in the other chat, where this thing's about to take off right now. Like the story's about to fully take off. So I might just strap on and hit that ending and see what ending.
You know
I
what?
get.
Let me just watch it again. Yeah. Anything else, Luis? Or that's kind of
nah. Still loving it, man. It's amazing. Right. Oh, one thing I just remembered because I wanted to see. It was very quick, but I was like, "Fuck it, let me just say hello to people for and see what kind of responses I get." And for like 5, maybe 10 minutes, I was just greeting people and listening to the responses. I'm like, dude, there's so much nuance to like every character you say hi to. It's completely different. I was just amazed at like how much effort they put into things that people will never see or hear in this game. 90%.
And it's wild. Like that's pretty much every game. Right, that's pretty much every. I mean, not every single game, right? But Rockstar games, but even like big games that are like all these side missions that Carlos will never see, But someone worked on it. Someone did work on it, right?
But not necessarily to the level of polish as Rockstar.
Oh no, of course not. Of course not. Yes, of course. Yeah, of course not. It's Rockstar's just on another level. That's why. Stop working on other shit and just make GTA 6, right? So I can appreciate that. So I can appreciate that level of nuance and beauty as I critical path through that also. All right, so let me do that.
It's like, make all these side missions, but let me go straight down the middle.
But I will say this. I don't know if I'm fully committed to that kind of like critical path when it comes to the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now I've realized I've been playing it. It's my playing this game at work type of game, but I'm like, this is the journey. I'm enjoying the journey of finding random little encounters of like, there's a guy, like, I think it's part of like a regular, like a staple or, I don't know, of the game, whatever you call it. It's a mechanic where there's a guy like has a thing that he's holding up and he's an advertisement, but with this fuse mechanic or whatever it is, I can kind of tilt the board up. So where I go talk to him like, hey, let it go, man. And he's like, can I let it go? And it's like, yeah, I can't. Ooh, it's standing by itself now. And it's like these little random encounters where I'm like, maybe this is part of the journey. Maybe I'm just gonna enjoy the journey in The Legend of Zelda finally. But I'm sure at some point I'm gonna just get either bored or tired of it. I'm gonna go back on the critical path. But it's funny to think that like this is what people love about this game. Just the exploration part of it and the fact that it's like, oh, I know the main thing is over there, but today I got time. I'm on break at work or at lunch or whatever it is. And like, today I got time. Let me just walk over here. Let me get into a tiny little encounter. So the genius of Tears of the Kingdom is just incredible. And I feel fully, I don't know who said it online, but on Twitter was like, oh yeah, let's make one of the greatest games of all time and make it better. And they kind of have with Tears. They kind of have. It's like it's kind of incredible. If you guys haven't dipped into it, please do. All the powers that you get, and they don't kind of dole them out like hours and hours over time. It's like you get these powerful moves kind of from the start. Like you get 3 or 4. It's like, oh shit, I got a lot to kind of work with now. But that's kind of the big thing I've been playing besides Final Fantasy 16. And we'll end it with you, Dalan. What else you been playing besides Final Fantasy, man?
Well, outside of Final Fantasy, I haven't really had a lot of time to play video games outside of Final Fantasy because it takes so much time.
Dedication, man. Some dedication.
Dedication. You got to commit to that game. But obviously, I had a little extra time to go out with you fine gentlemen. But then we went to Carlos' house, played on the Switch, and we decided to play a couple of new video games. Luis, you weren't there at the time, but one of my favorite games that I played on the Switch, and I hadn't had a chance to actually buy it yet because I kind of came home and just knocked the hell out. But Never Stop Sneaking on the Switch was wacky Metal Gear, and I really need to get that. It's super wacky.
But it's just so people aren't confused. It's not new though. I think you said new. It's been out for 3, maybe 4 years, right? But yes, it never stops sneaking. It's got its own theme music and everything. Yeah.
That game was super wacky, and because I was such a huge fan of Metal Gear, it hit all the right notes for me to just say, I need this game in my life. Yeah. So I know that they're coming out with that Metal Gear collection, but if anybody wants something in the meantime that could potentially be thoroughly enjoyed, never stop sneaking. Put it on your list.
Yeah, never stops. It's a top-down, by the way. Top-down Metal Gear Solid 1. Metal Gear Solid 1 with the blocky textures, by the way. Like
super blocky texture.
It's a very super blocky texture, very ridiculous. Never stop sneaking. So I think that's it, man. That's an episode, the 4th of July episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll be back next time. I'm Carlos Macias, the master of, what did you say, International Pringles Day?
International
Macias?
Pringles.
Okay, International Pringles. I hope you're enjoying those, Dan. Especially the bread flavored one. This is definitely a bread flavored or a sandwich flavored multi-grain one. Dalan Kirkwood.
Rose chicken and rosemary.
I saw bread on the thing there, I think.
Flavor multi-grain. It says multi-grain.
The only time I see multi-grain is on bread, sir. That's the only time I see it. But Dalan Kirkwood from up in the mountains. Thank you for joining us, sir. And Luis Mendez on the Wheels of Steel. All right, Dylan. Enjoy your chips, man. Latest.